Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino and engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino and
Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Gino and Today, we have the honor of welcoming Mark Scherer to our podcast. Mark is known as the coach of coaches and founder of 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵𝗁 Life. He has had the pleasure of working with thousands of individuals, including executives, entrepreneurs, healthcare professionals, coaches, and leaders, enable them to navigate the most challenging and personal chapters of their lives. Super excited to have you here, Mark. I appreciate you joining us as a guest. And so if you could please share with our audience a bit about yourself and your background, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me on, Gino. Really great to meet you as well. Love what you're doing here, sir. Yeah, I was, just go back to childhood. I mean, I was raised on a ranch in South Texas, and I was always interested in what I'm doing now. I just didn't know what it was called or that people were actually doing it to make a living, you know. Right. I was raised where you have to work really, really hard and life's not fair and those types of conversations. My parents were, I'd say, with the maybe like despondent with life, you know, like he had gone into resignation about life. I remember seeing my dad at around age 40 or so, and it's like somebody sucker punched him. And, you know, like the spark was gone from his eyes, and you could tell he just went into deeper and deeper resignation. And it's interesting when I saw that happen. I remember saying to myself, I was a kid, and saying, well, I'm not going to let that happen to me, which exactly it happened to me too.
Oh, man.
Which was perfect because I started to do more introspective work, and I started studying consciousness. I've been studying consciousness now for about 35 years with a lot of different modalities. And most of the modalities I worked with were, you got to think positive thoughts and don't think negative thoughts type of a deal. And for me, I was already pretty mental. So that was just one more voice in my head trying to manage the other voices, which was excruciatingly painful. I equated to trying to herd cats. So I studied in those modalities for about 20 years, and then I found the bone of this system about 15 years ago that had to do with feelings. And when I was a kid, if we spoke about our feelings, you know, men don't talk about feelings.
Right.
You know, all that. We couldn't say the word hate in our family.
Really?
Yeah, because you say the word hate when you get hit.
Oh, wow.
So does that mean there wasn't any hate in the family? No, it was everywhere, but you just couldn't say the word for it. So all that stuff was suppressed. So I had that going on inside me for a number of decades. And then I found this system and began to find out how much hate I had inside of me. And started to unwind all that. And as I did, guess what happened? I began to actually have fun with life.
Wow.
I mean, that was a big revelation for me that like, life can actually be really fun.
Right.
Instead of just working to make a paycheck, and then once you have enough money, then you can have fun or whatever it is, you know?
Right.
Like, none of that really works. So when I got into this and started to do, like this is the Kind Leader podcast we're talking about. And, the kindness got to start with yourself.
Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, and that's absolutely right. How are you kind with yourself? But we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. So thank you for that background. You know, congratulations on your success and where you are in life right now, and growing up and seeing that, and then experiencing yourself, and then having that moment in time where you're like, you know, there's more to it in this life than in that negative world, right? Where we can take actions. But sometimes people I've said this before in our podcast, and is the world happening to you or is the world happening for you?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure you may have heard that, right? And I think when people are seeing that the world is happening to them, they are very much, you know, this is what I need to do, and, you know, wake up, go to sleep and do the thing, you know, a machine basically, right? And that's my life. And sometimes that can create some negative things, but it's happening for you to experience it, to enjoy it, to live it. So, but thank you for that, and we'll definitely discuss a little bit more. But the first question that I love asking my guests here is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
Yeah, so like I said a few minutes ago, kindness starts within myself. if I'm beating myself up, I'm be beating everybody up around me as well. If I believe I can't be supported, like one of the core beliefs, there's a lot of times people will have I found a lot of mid-level manager or business owners will have a belief they can't be supported. So when they have that type of belief system inside of them, they'll hire people who can't support them, or they'll surround themselves with people who can, but they'll belittle them until they won't.
Right.
So you got to change yourself inside before you can really be a kind leader. Everything starts from within. And sometimes the kind leader, has to tell the brutal truth.
Yeah.
If I have held things back from speaking with people or have sugarcoated it, and it keeps getting worse and worse, and I internalize it, and the relationship gets worse. So sometimes I think kindness starts with honesty.
Yeah.
You got to get it out. If you don't get it out, it's going to poison the relationship and affect your health, affect my health first, and then help that relationship. So kindness is being honest, even when you don't want to be. And I've worked with I've had numerous companies over the years, and sometimes I can tell people just don't like what they're doing. They're not aligned with the values of my company, and the kind thing is to call attention to that and go, okay, go somewhere else.
Right.
So that person has an opportunity to find what really motivates them.
Right.
Some people think, well, I don't want to kick this person out. Well, if I'm holding on to that person, I'm holding them back from them being able to find their own path. So sometimes the kindest thing to do is say, hey, guy, or, it's time for you to go and find your own thing. But before that goes on, it's find out what's going on with the person. Really, there's little tools of communication tools we use, and I use them within Compass Life. And as our employees are understanding how we use communication here and language here, they're taking it home. And when they take it home, their family life improves, relationship with their kids improves, relationship with their parents improves. One of our coaches, when she first came to a class, she hadn't spoken to her dad in 23 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, I was really direct with her in a class and, play the tough love thing. She got out of the class, made a call with her dad. Now they talk multiple times a week. They have a relationship. Her dad tells her he loves her. He tells her how much she loves him. She tells him how much she loves and appreciates him now.
Yeah.
And when she did, like all that weight was off of her shoulders. So sometimes that kindness thing can be really, really direct.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree 100%. And I think it's that you talk about accountability, or not accountability as much as when it's okay to speak to that individual, like you were to your example, where they're not a good spot. And if you're not telling them that they're not doing well, right, you're doing a disservice to them. You're not being kind to them, right?
Right.
And they're not able to succeed in life. Maybe this is not the environment for them, but it's a better environment somewhere else. And maybe that individual doesn't have the courage either, right, to say, like, I can go find somewhere else either. So it's kind of like being kind is not just being nice, but also helping others. You speak the truth in certain things, right? And you still got to be respectful, right? For example, I have an individual in my organization that I created an environment where I just realized that I put too much on this person. And this person was just taking it on, and I saying no, right? Saying yes to everything that was given. And I realized there's a reason this person is not saying no to some of the things, because one, the position, my title and the owner of the company, but also I'm not being fair to this person because I'm expecting this person to say no, but they're not, and they never will. So unless you break the illusion of that fear, that illusion of the no, if I say no, something's going to happen, or if I continue to put more things into it, it's going to create more challenges. So all circling back to essentially, being kind is not just being nice, but also making sure that we are providing that direct feedback to yourself as well as others.
Yes, sir. And having my door is always open. I said, if you got something up with me, the way I speak with you, or my tone of voice, let me know.
Yeah.
It's when people hold things in that destroys a relation. And I'd much rather work with somebody who has passion for what I do,
Yeah.
and maybe doesn't have the skill set and I can train skill sets.
Right.
But passion is, it's either they have it or they don't,
Right.
So,
Right.
Making sure that person has passion. I mean, there's the skill sets. If they're doing a specific job, I had somebody who represented themselves as can do marketing and understood technology, and they got in here. I got it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out they didn't have it,
Yeah.
and they were learning on the job, which was fine if the person would be upfront and honest and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," rather than being inauthentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have honesty to be kind.
Yeah.
Authenticity. What's going on with you? What can I do to help?
Right.
Require help, let me know. And if you can't do the job, that's okay. I can find something else for you to do.
Yeah.
And we'll find somebody else who can take this. There's so many things that are available when people are just, the truth will set you free. I'm sure you've heard that before. I'm a staunch believer in that.
Exactly. So one of the things I wanted to come back to was on, your introduction. You talked about, I'm very intrigued about your life and the things that transpired in your life that made you change and kind of helped you kind of stand up this organization that you have and the quantum leap technique too. So can you walk me through that a little bit more?
Yeah, coming up on the anniversary of when I burned everything down behind me and started my new career. Friday, November the 13th, 2009.
Wow.
Yeah. We got Friday the 13th coming up next week. So I had a construction company. I hated what I was doing. I was reliving my dad's life, a miserable life, and work for a paycheck. And I'd make money and I'd lose money. I'd make money and I'd lose money. And I had some properties. I had a boat, big house. And no matter what I had, it wasn't enough, and I wasn't happy. And I had gotten into an accident, and when I first got it, I couldn't walk. Had all kinds of things going on with me from the accident. So I was taking pain pills and things as well, and my company was struggling when I was incapacitated like that, and I was trusting some. So it kept going down. And remember, 2008, 2009 was a really pivotal point.
Right.
In 2008, we were in construction. We were doing hospitals in Central Texas, and we had about $20 million worth of work scheduled to go in for 2009. But we had bid the jobs. They hadn't awarded the jobs yet, but we were low on, say, hey, contracts coming. And I remember Thanksgiving of 2008 is like somebody unplugged the phone. So we went from projected to doing 28 million in 2009 to doing 6.
Wow.
And, they kept telling me, hey, your contracts are coming. So I was trying to keep my people.
Right.
And on Friday, I had a friend of mine working for me, or his son actually working for me, and he embezzled $350,000 from me in 90 days in 2009.
Wow.
So here I am praying to get out of what I was doing, hated it, and moving into coaching. But I wanted to put a couple more $1 million in the bank in case coaching didn't work,
Right.
So I would fall back. So on Friday, November 13th, 2009, my employees go to the bank to cash their checks, and there's no money in the bank.
Oh, man.
My banker, I told him about the embezzlement, and he said, we'll work with you through it. But they called my line of credit due on Friday, November 13th, 2009, and swept my bank account.
Man. Oh, no.
So I got out of the construction business, and I lost about 95% of my wealth in 120 days by paying people off, paying the IRS off, doing whatever I could just to make things right. And hence began my journey in becoming a coach. And I had been coaching people on the side for a number of years, but I was reluctant to do it full time.
Right.
And I desired to be a really great coach. And so God goes, well, coach your ass through this. And all that, it happened, instead of all that happening to me, it happened for me.
Yep.
And I got to experience what it was like to rebuild my life based on what I loved other than on what I believed if I got enough, I would love, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so everything I've been doing since then has been built on love and what I really care about doing and what I love doing. I mean, I've had a few forays back into let me try to do this in order to, but for the most part, it's been about love. And I started Encompass Life I studied with my teacher for about 10 years, I guess, and was doing coaching, and I was also doing real estate investing and flipping and, doing some other things to make ends meet and making some pretty good money at it. But the real estate wasn't fulfilling my heart.
Right.
And so about 6 years ago, I guess, I started Encompass Life and started with the quantum leap technique because I found something that makes personal growth really, really easy and gets people out of their head and self-managing thoughts.
Right.
And try to do the positive, negative thing that is really, really fast and really easy to do.
Right.
And so I started Encompass Life about 6 years ago. I've been building infrastructure, developing a team of coaches who could do what we're doing.
Right.
And now
That's beautiful.
Yeah, now we're launching. And we got clients all over. I have clients all over the world without even having a website.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, what resonates with me is, that moment in time that you remember it vividly, right? That Friday the 13th, 2009, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such an impactful life. Impacting your life, right? And it's part of your journey. And to your point is, you could have easily had that mentality where this is happening to me, what the heck is going on, spiral down into a depression or other types of things. But I commend you for
about it.
Commend you for grabbing, holding tight, being able to try to navigate through the situation, right? And seeing that as a journey, as a learning experience, right? And bringing it back to from a kind leadership perspective, it's like the people have to experience this to change their lives. I'm sure you were still a kind individual even before, right? It's just life happens, right?
Yeah, I was kind of an asshole too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, an honest one though.
Fair enough. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with myself,
Yeah.
And life was happening to me, and I didn't think life was fair and all that stuff. That's why I was raised. So
okay.
I walked around with a chip on my shoulder.
Got it. So this was this
big turning point.
Big turning point, like you say, it's happening for you to realize, hey, you can have all the money in the world, right? But if you're not happy, you don't have love, you don't appreciate, you're not, grateful for the things you have, or you're helping others and impacting people's lives, then you're not gonna enjoy the life, right? And that's why, for me, I didn't have that big of an impact. But for me, it was several personal things were happening in my home and some in the business in 2017, right? That was a pivotal moment for me as well at the end of that year, and where I realized that the world is happening for me and I need to take charge on the things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And change that mindset from a growth. So I didn't have like a scarcity mindset personally or a negative mindset. It was like that feeling of like, why aren't things working out?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they happening? Like questioning, like why aren't they, compared to like, this is happening for me to experience this. This is happening for me so I can learn from it and grow from there, right? So, and that moment is when I started thinking about, the gratitude and being kind to others and really building on that. And that, fast forward, I guess 8 years, 6 years, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm able to really I embody and I feel like leading with kindness and leading empathy and creating that atmosphere and platform for people in my organization, as well as others, that you can truly lead and grow an organization and have everybody, be in the same mindset, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and playfulness is huge.
Yeah.
One of the things we do is we really bring forth humor.
Yeah.
It said normally for people to change a pattern, it takes 400 to 600 repetitions to create a pattern shift.
Mm.
If you use humor, it only takes 10 to 20.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was born in the 50s and late 50s, so I got to experience the 60s and the comedy of the 60s. And back then, Italians would make fun of Germans, Germans would make fun of Jews, and everybody's making fun of everybody else's lineage. But there was also a commonality that ran through humanity, and we could do that, and everybody could joke about it, and people weren't taking it personally, and they were able to see their behaviors and make changes with it.
Yeah.
So one of the big things we have here is and I work with companies is, bring humor back into the situation. When you get people to laugh at their shit, it's pretty much over. It's when they think their behaviors are them.
Yeah.
Rather than a facet or a filter or something they made up about life or made up about their identity.
Yeah.
And they take it personally, but it's just a behavior pattern,
Okay.
When people can do that, their ability to get along, the ability to grow, the ability to make changes and really excel in life increases. Creativity goes up, intuition goes up, genius all goes up as well. I saw there was a study done by Stanford, and it said complaining damages the neurons in the brain.
Say that one more time.
They said complaining damages the neurons in the brain. I'm from Texas, so I'll simplify it. Complaining makes us stupid.
I gotcha. Fair enough.
And they said even if you're passively listening to somebody complain, it damages your neurons.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And gratitude and authenticity and humor build neurons.
Wow. Okay. That's a really good one. Yeah, I love that. So gratitude and what were the other two?
Authenticity.
Okay.
And humor.
So gratitude, authenticity, and humor make you smarter.
And one of the things I say about authenticity, like, what's authenticity? There's a lot of ways to define it. One of the ways I define it is if I got something up, I'm going to tell on myself before anybody else can tell on me.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's funny.
Man, I'm so screwed up today. Instead of trying to hide it, right?
Yeah.
So if you could bring authenticity in your organization where somebody can, instead of trying to hide that screw up.
Yeah.
Hey, here's what happened. And really, I'm kind of chomping around here, but I read a book a number of decades ago about Atlantis and Atlanteans.
Okay.
And one of the what they said would have them excel as a society is if something showed up, in other words, somebody made a kerfluffle or a mistake, they immediately addressed it, created a new behavior pattern, and the whole society learned and adopted the new behaviors. So instead of beating themselves up, trying to hide it, it was always an experience, always a share, always a change of knowledge, and what do we do from here? And they were able to excel.
Yeah.
Imagine, we have families and organizations who are doing this as well.
Yeah.
And it takes all that right, wrong out of things, and all that shame. Shame is
even worse. Yeah.
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 It keeps from what you want the most in life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's shaming yourself too, right? Not even shaming others, shaming yourself too.
Yeah.
In so many ways, you think, because so I also heard like 80% of our thoughts are, trying to protect us, but it's negative, right? In our way. But I like what you're saying as it relates to the complaining side, or especially it creates this toxic environment where even if you complain to someone equal, your group, which they can't do anything, right? All it's doing is just creating the negativity compared to like, hey, there's some issues. Can we change it and move up the ladder and kind of create that change, right? And that impact in your organization.
And you can either create a structure of commiserating, right, where people, or you can create a structure of if there's a complaint,
right,
they immediately come up with a solution, and all it takes is a little switch in the brain to flip it on or off.
Yeah. And
when they do that, the company begins to have solution builders rather than complaint magnifiers.
Gotcha. Okay. So is the quantum leap technique, as you're talking right now about the complaining and being authentic, gratitude, and humor, it kind of creates that. Is that what you guys use as part of it? Or
part of it, more? So the way we change thought rather than, trying to manage thoughts is painful. So we have a system where we change body chemistry, which changes brain chemistry, which changes thoughts immediately.
Yeah.
So it's a super easy way. You can change your thought pattern and reprogram your subconscious to give you a set of new thoughts in a matter of seconds or minutes.
Wow.
And the way we do it is we take how out of it. The how is what traps the person's monkey mind. How am I going to do it? 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 And they get up in that broken record of how, and they can't see a solution from that. So what we do with this is we have the person go into a state of ease, relaxation, a brand new state of ease and relaxation, just in their body, no mental activities, just
Yeah.
And when that person can calm their body down, they move from sympathetic to parasympathetic and activate higher brain function. And then, rather than trying to figure out what to do, they give themselves their outcome already inside their body, and then they remember the steps they took. It's an actual remembering, an actual seeing, rather than, like most modalities talk about, you got to visualize.
Right.
That's, to me, is like conjuring. Like visualize the yellow sports car and the blonde with the whatever, and then that's going to be my happy nirvana type of thing.
Right.
When people do that, it's like they're chasing, and they're never really happy. This is giving yourself the feeling of already being in that happy, fulfilled state, and then you see the movie of it and the steps you took to achieve it.
Gotcha.
So it's way easier, way faster.
So it's not so much about visualizing to yourself, because I know, like, even sports, you visualize a lot of things, or even as you have goals that you're trying to accomplish, or if you want to, change your life, you're trying to visualize things, but it's about being in a state of relaxation, or even a state, I feel like, in gratitude, right? So it brings you down into that state of relaxation where then you can feel, right? You start feeling, then you visualize it, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's not a visualization. It's this actual seeing. Like, no efforting to visualize. It's as if all of a sudden, here's 40 hours worth of Netflix that gets downloaded to your consciousness in 3 seconds.
Okay. Got it.
And I'll tell people about this, and they're, what? And then they do it, and they go, holy crap, I didn't know this was available. Yeah, me either. The first time I did it, I was leading a class with maybe 30 people in it, and I was talking about, you ever heard of the 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗁 Alliance and how it came into being?
No.
So 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗁 Alliance is a, you know how long I got, can I elaborate on this? It's just an interesting story. All right. So there's a lady by the name of Lynn Twist and a guy by the name of John Perkins. John Perkins wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. John was a CIA operative, where he would go into third world countries who they had recently surveyed and found nice deposits of gold, oil, something that was valuable to the Western world. And John's job was to go into these countries and to offer money to the leadership for them to develop their country for tourism. And they would inflate the amount of money they could do and the amount of money they could pay back the loan with, on purpose, so they could enslave the country. And so John was to go in there and do that. And if that didn't work, his next job was to bribe the owner, the leaders of the country. And if that didn't work, they were to bring in jackals and take the people out, or then bring in the military so they could do it. And the caveat for them taking the money was American companies had to do the construction of all the stuff.
Interesting.
So John was really good at his job. And he said one day he was walking by the mirror in his bathroom, and he had his moment. He looked in the mirror and he goes, what the hell am I doing? And he woke up.
Yeah.
Kind of like, what am I doing? So he wrote this book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, talking about his stuff. So John and Lynn Twist didn't know each other, and they end up in the Amazonian rainforest, and they're doing a ceremony with a shaman. And they're all laying, no ayahuasca or anything, but just doing like drum beats and stuff.
Okay.
And they're all laying around a fire, and the shaman starts beating the drum. Well, Lynn's body turns and John's body turns into an eagle, and he starts his arms turn into feathers, and then he's seeing himself flying over the jungle, and seeing a tribe with markings on their face. So everybody has these visions. Well, John and Lynn had the exact same vision.
Huh.
And so the shaman says, "Hey, man, we know that, you stay after the thing. Let's talk about this." And they're describing their vision to the shaman. He goes, "Well, this tribe is calling you into the jungle."
Huh.
And no one knew who they were. And all of a sudden, John goes, "I know who they are. I've seen CIA pictures, and I remember the markings of them."
Oh, wow.
So you're like, what's the odds of this, right?
Yeah, right.
So, this isn't, him visualizing. This is them seeing something. You understand?
Yeah.
So John says, "Well, I'm going to go in and contact him. Lynn, you got to come with me." Lynn, who's she was head of the World Hunger Project. And she goes, "I got to go back to Africa because I got a meeting with the World Hunger Project." So she goes back to Africa, and she's sitting in a meeting with a bunch of leaders of the country. And she said she looks down at the table and looks back up, and everybody in the room has the same markings on their face that she saw in the vision, not visualized it, saw it.
Yeah.
And she gets out of the room, washes her eyes out, walks into the hallway. Everyone in the hallway has the same paintings on her face. And she's like, "What the hell's going on?" She calls John and goes, "John, I guess I'm coming to the Amazon with you." So the difference between visualizing and seeing is that process. All of a sudden you just see something and it touches you deeply. And no matter what happens, this is what you see and this is what you're becoming.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the story on that. I mean, it was definitely. Is that a book or?
John, John has a book called The Conventional Economic Hitman. I met Lynn at a conference, and I had dinner with her a couple of times, and she was telling me the story from behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
So she don't know if any of this is in a book, but I know I met John and Lynn both, and they're both telling me the story. So
okay. Well, I love that story because, and I love what you're doing with your group and then the quantum leap technique, and it really is, bringing it back to the kind leadership. I emphasize you have to have the right mindset, you have to have the right belief, right, and be able to get down to being able to lead with empathy. You have to truly be kind to yourself first. Take care of yourself, believe in, what you want to do and improve yourself. Then you can help others around you so you can be, but it starts in the mind, it starts in the beliefs, right? And I love what you said, the humor and all those different things that allow you to get better and improve your life.
Yeah, and you can only see life through the veils of what you feel. So if I'm suppressing anger, resentment, all I can see is anger and resentment.
Okay, that's important. Yeah, and that can be anger or depression or sadness.
Depression, right? Sadness, right.
Yeah.
You can only see what you feel.
Yeah.
And until the person gets to a place where they can actually see the whole world as love and gratitude and appreciation, that's all they're going to be able to see is whatever they're suppressing inside themselves.
Yeah. I love that. That's great wisdom right there for our audience as it relates to how they can improve themselves. So change that feeling, change that, get deep into yourselves, and maybe even, go to Mark's site and see if you might be interested in that. Or, there's other things out there. And I'm not sure if you have any free resources that people can kind of learn and grab, we have
a lot of videos on our website.
Perfect. Okay.
And we're going to be adding a bunch more. I do have a book coming out first quarter or second quarter.
Oh, nice. Well. Okay. Yeah, so we can put the show notes, the website, and we can follow up on the different things that we want to include it in there. But as we're coming to a close here, the one question I love asking our guests is, if you could have coffee with anyone alive or from the past, who would it be and why?
Tough question. There's so many people: Lincoln, Kennedy, John Kennedy, Tesla. Tesla would be really cool.
Okay.
I think I'd probably go with Tesla.
Okay.
And reason being because he says everything, one of his quotes was, "Everything is frequency." When you begin to understand everything is frequency, you begin to understand what life's really about. And that's kind of what we're doing here. The quantum leap technique is changing the frequency so people can see something different that's already available instead of trying to force things to happen. So, I'd go with Tesla.
That's beautiful. I like that. Everything is frequency. So the moment you begin to see
Somebody asked Einstein one day, he goes, how does this feel to be the smartest guy on the planet? He goes, ask Tesla.
That's funny. I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks, Mark. And, what listeners can find you and your website or your LinkedIn as well. Any other social media platforms?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, all those platforms as well. Quantum Leap Technique is what accesses you that they need on all those platforms. I just started a podcast too. I'd love to have you on my podcast. That's cool with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's called The Wellness Revolution.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're interviewing people who are really making a difference, changing the health of the planet. Not just pollution or something, but changing individuals, because all the change has to occur from here, has to occur on the inside first.
Within, yeah. Absolutely, I love it. One thing that got me thinking is when you said about healing is this week I was talking to a colleague and said, you ever heard the terminology when people are cleaning their faces and they clean the mirror?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of actually looking within and cleaning your actual self, right?
Yeah.
That also it resonated with me. And as you're talking about, healing, I think that it really resonated with me. But thank you. Any final thoughts as we close out here?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
What do you love about life?
Wow. Okay. That is a tough question.
So I bet you if I asked you what do you hate about life, I bet you could answer that question easier than you can answer it.
I think the easy answer right now would be, I love my family, right? That's an easy answer, but I think we're looking for something deeper, right? Like,
just whatever you want.
And I think it's the journey. What I'm really enjoying, what I love about where I am at this particular moment is the journey of understanding what life is all about, right?
Awesome.
Being able to not be in this body to experience, but almost like I'm taking a step back and looking at myself and what can I accomplish or what can I impact, that kind of thing. It's like being able to be aware of that is what I'm loving at this moment. So thanks for that question.
Great answer, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Mark, it's a pleasure. Thank you we've learned so much about you, your organization, and what you're doing. Keep it up. I think we need more people like that to be able to help others, right? Change their feelings and be able to see what they really want in life or how they want to enjoy life and the journey. So thank you for being part of it. I look forward to being part of your podcast as well. So with that, I'll leave everybody with be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day, everybody.